Welcome back, everybody. We're gonna finish up on the rear end, the Dana 35 rear end for my wife's Jeep Wrangler. Now, I'm not gonna quote a bunch of torque specs and such. You should look that up online because it varies year to year. Let's get started. Now, this is for a 97 Jeep Wrangler YJ. It's a Dana 35 rear end, and it's kind of a special beast. It has a little couple of quirks to it, but yeah, rear end's a rear end. So took it apart and found this pattern cut into the carrier, and that's being cut into there by the pinion gear. So I know I have a problem with the pinion gear. It's moving around too much. The carrier isn't sloppy or moving around, so we're just going to have to change all the bearings. What the hell? While I'm here, I might as well do the job. Now down in here, that's the pinion gear, and for some reason it's being allowed to slide inwards into the case and hitting the carrier assembly. And this is what we've got. The nut that holds the pinion in place is loose. I can turn it by hand, and that's also evident by the amount of oil that's on there. So I took the carrier out, checked it out, cleaned it up, decided the bearings, they have to be changed because they're worn. Checked the clutch packs because this is a limited slip rear end, and they were good. Now, after putting the new pinion bearings in and the new pinion, you need to torque this nut down to a specific, not a torque, but to where it gives a specific resistance to rotation when you put this little torque wrench on it. Should be about 10-15 inch-pounds. So you put the torque wrench on and you rotate it through, and as you're rotating it, you read the needle and see what kind of resistance you get, and that will tell you whether or not you have it torqued properly. Later on, when you do the final assembly, you put a crush washer in there, and you're actually crushing the washer as you're tightening the nut down, and that will bring you up to where you then measure with the little torque wrench to make sure that you have the proper amount of drag. Because to crush that crush washer, you got to pull 220 to 400 foot-pounds, and that's not the real torque of the pinion nut. That's actually the, well, it is the torque of the pinion nut, but it's not the force that you're putting on the pinion bearings. It's kind of hard to explain, but this is a Dana 35 rear end, and it's a little bit different than other rear ends. So we keep hammering it down here and checking it out to make sure that we get the right torque or the right rotational resistance. And that looks good. Next, we need to check the backlash. That's the space between the two gears, and you hold the pinion gear still and rotate the ring gear, and you should have 5 to 7, somewhere in there, thousandths of an inch of play, and here I've got 12. So I pulled the carrier out, put a shim underneath the pinion to bring it out, and did my best Van Gogh routine. We're going to put some of this paint stuff on the gear. Then we will rotate it. It will mesh with the pinion gear and leave a pattern in this paint and show us whether or not we're getting proper gear contact. There are 4 things that you need to watch for here. That's gear contact pattern, pinion depth, carrier placement, and backlash. The carrier will be right and left, and the pinion will be up and down, and if they're set properly, you'll get a good pattern on this paint here. So we roll the gear through and see what kind of pattern it transfers. Sorry about the elbow. Got old man elbow here. So once we're done rotating the gears through, we take a look at the pattern that's in the paint, and it's not looking good. If you look, you'll see that the paint is worn off towards the inside of the ring gear and up towards the top edge of the tooth of the ring gear. That means the pinion and ring gear are not meshing properly. That'll wind up giving you a very short gear life and a lot of noise. And in the long run, I did this about 15-20 times, and I still could not get a good pattern. So I just threw the pinion into my furnace and cooked the crap out of it, beat it with a hammer, and called it a day. Now, actually, this is a gear, pinion gear out of a rear end that was run without any oil in it. No, what I really did was I swallowed my pride and took it to a shop down in Sun Valley, California called Hooper's Rear Ends. 40 years ago when I first ran across them, it was Hooper's Rear End Exchange. But they do all kinds of rear ends. They do a great job. They set it up for me. All I had to do was rebuild the brakes, put new brakes on, put in the axles, put in chrome moly axles, and throw the back cover on it, fill it up with oil. Started off with 1 quart of 75-90 oil, but you see it says it's got the additive in it for limited slip rear ends. You got to have that. If it doesn't have the additive, you'll wind up screwing up the clutch packs. So I put in 1 quart to start with, just to see if anything leaks. Then once I get it in the vehicle, I will put in the other quart. So now it's just a matter of taking this thing back down to the Jeep, stuffing the rear end in it, and tightening up a few bolts and calling it a day. Hooray! Anyhow, if you got any questions, leave them down in the comments. Or if you got any comments, leave them down in the questions. See ya!